Okay, let's get into the last thing I'm going to get into as far as comparing on the practices of the religions. Second, actually, we're going to be finishing up with getting into Islam from the mindset of comparing it to Christianity. The rest of the talks on Islam are going to be purely related to Islam, with the exception of one little tiny tidbit, but it's not really going to be true comparison like we've been doing here in these last, I think we're on probably 10 parts or so now. If you haven't been watching this series, I suggest you go back to the beginning, because you're not going to have any idea what we're going into now, and you're going to have missed a lot of the base points here, and you're just going to think, oh, I'm promoting Islam or anything. Nope, I'm just trying to do some education. So, using, for the last time, Christianity as a base, let's look at the idea of misunderstood practices, because we've been going over practices as of late of the Islamic religion, because it's important to judge a religion by how it acts in the world. Religion can say everybody's good, I love everybody, turn the other cheek, yada yada and so forth, and if everybody runs around killing everybody, that's not really what they are, is it? So, let's find our practice as a reference. I know there's a perfect one for Christianity. Mass. All Christian religions do not have Mass. Catholics have Mass. The body of Christ, the blood of Christ. Hey, what's a little ritual cannibalism between friends? I'm not saying that's what that ritual is about. That ritual has nothing whatsoever to do with cannibalism at all. However, many people misunderstand it to be. I mean, really, how else are you supposed to interpret the body of Christ and the blood of Christ and eating it? Sounds like ritual cannibalism to me. But if you've ever been to a Catholic Mass, or you know anybody who is a Catholic, you know darn well that that is not ritual cannibalism, or anything to do with ritual cannibalism. I bring this up because one of the things that people always bring up when they say those evil Muslims is the mutilation of female genitalia. For those of you who haven't heard about this, you've either lived a sheltered life, or your people around you already knew you hated Muslims, so they didn't feel the need to throw this down your throat. There are some countries and cultures in which a female's genitalia are mutilated so that she cannot orgasm or climax before she matures. This is not an Islamic ritual. This, like Catholic Mass, which is not a Christian ritual, is a ritual practiced by a select group in select countries, or those who have cultural ties to those countries. This is not something all Muslims practice. As a matter of fact, there's some Muslim countries that are predominantly, if not entirely Muslim countries, who've never heard of this tradition. at all. So if you went up and started yelling at them about it, they'd look at you like a deer looks into headlights. They'd be, "What are you talking about? I would never do that to my daughter. You're sick, man." Of course, they wouldn't say it like that, but that would be their general reaction to that. Something important to point out. Of course, you could say the same thing for many other things. It's important now more than ever not to let a stereotype be the judge for a whole culture or people or way of life or philosophy. One asshole can destroy an entire culture for a people. So, why my personal belief is I don't think that practice is a good thing. But it's important to separate that whether you agree with or disagree with that practice, that it is not an Islamic practice. And if you hate Muslims because of this practice, you need to understand that you don't hate Muslims. You don't hate Islam. You hate some followers of Islam who have some pretty extreme, crazy notions. In much the same way, I hate or don't have any real interest in being around some Bible thumpers that have some pretty extreme, hateful ideas. So, yeah. It's important to separate the two. So that concludes getting into practices. So there's some other things I could go into, but it's the thing here is education and so on. It's important to understand and honestly, if I'm not a Muslim, if you really want to understand Islam, you really want to understand the Muslim culture, here's what I honestly recommend you do. Okay? I recommend you set all your preconceptions aside. All your beliefs, one way or the other, aside. I'm not saying you renounce them. I'm saying for a moment, take a breath, set them aside. See if there's a mosque within driving distance of you. Call it. Explain that you have no interest in converting whatsoever to Islam, but you would like to educate yourself on what your Muslim neighbors believe. Ask if they are Sunni or Shiite. And ask if it would be okay if you came by and talked. Ask if the Imam has some free time. However, when the Imam has that sign up that says, "Please remove shoes," don't walk into his office with shoes. It's rude. Take your damn shoes off. You're in his house. Show a little respect. Not saying, and let me be honest, you're just there on a collective sign. You will find that there are many tolerant people in many places in the world. It's important to ask. Now, you may have some heated debates, which is why I said set your preconceptions aside. I've covered some of the things you'll have some heated debates on. One of them is, did Christ die? Son, it's like because you're dealing with core belief values. But if you can't show some respect, don't do it. It's no. So, and we have a couple more things to go into and a couple more parts, but we're done with most of the basics. We're going to get into some other things. Just basically quick glance through stuff. All right. Bye for now, Wolf.